Today I'm going to show you how to make scalloped potatoes. This recipe makes either two 4-inch pans or one 8-inch pie dish. So let's get our mise en place ready. For this recipe, you will need 1 tablespoon of olive oil. You can also use vegetable oil. 1 clove of minced garlic. 1 cup of half and half a cup of heavy cream. You're going to need 1 teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of pepper, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, and 1 teaspoon of onion powder. 2 large russet potatoes, about 1 cup of shredded mozzarella, and 1/4 cup of grated Parmesan cheese. I also have a small saucepan here ready to go. So you can serve it in 2 separate pans that serves 2 each, or you can serve it in an 8-inch pan, and that will serve 4. You're going to need a mixing spoon and serving spoon and also a peeler. So let's get this recipe going. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to peel my potatoes. I want to make sure that I clean any of the dark spots that may appear on the potato, any blemishes, and use the side of the peeler to pull out any of the small eyes that may have formed on the potato. As you can see, there is a small black blemish on my potato. I can either peel around it a little bit to see how deep it goes, but I may have to cut it out. You have to use that discretion based off of how large of a spot is on the potato and how much of the potato you're going to take away by peeling it away. This was rather quick. So after I peel my 2 potatoes, I will clean up quickly. I use my paper towel so I have an easy cleanup. I'm going to rinse my potatoes a little bit just so I can get any of the dirt off of them that has stayed around during the peeling process. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to cut my potatoes. I'm going to cut them in half lengthwise so I make a nice flat bottom. And then I'm going to slice them about 1/4 of an inch thick. You want them to be thin enough so that they cook quickly, but you also don't want them to be too thin that they become mushy and don't make nice layers in your potato. So about 1/4 of an inch is the right thickness for this. After all my potatoes are cooked, I'm going to get to preparing my scalloped potatoes. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to heat your small saucepan with a little bit of olive oil, about a tablespoon, 2 teaspoons to a tablespoon of olive oil. When it's warm, I'm going to add my garlic. You don't want to add more than 1 garlic clove to this recipe because it may be too overpowering of flavor, but you don't want to omit it. It does add some nice aroma. I'm going to cook it for about 30 seconds. It's just going to start to sizzle a little bit. I don't want it to brown because browning will mean that it becomes bitter. Once I smell the aroma of the garlic, I'm ready for my next step. And in the next step, I'm going to add my cream, my half and half, my seasoning, salt, pepper, onion powder, and garlic powder, and I'm going to let it come up to a simmer. When it simmers, I'm going to let it simmer for about 10 minutes until the potatoes start to become slightly tender. We don't want to cook them all the way, and we also do not want to cook this at a rapid boil because we don't want to evaporate all of the liquid. We want to start the cooking process in the pan and finish it in the oven. After a few minutes of cooking, I'm going to stir them periodically. I'm going to taste the liquid for seasoning at this point because you want to make sure that there's enough salt to season the potatoes. We are going to add some Parmesan cheese, which will also add salt, but we want to make sure that there's a good amount at this point. And now we're going to portion. I'm doing 2 portions separately, so it's enough for 2 people to share each dish. I'm going to divide the potato mixture in 2, and then I'm going to divide that half of the mixture into the bottom of both of these pans. So I'm going to put a thin layer on the bottom of each of the dishes. You want to make sure that you're also distributing the liquid equally so that when we put these in the oven, there's enough liquid to complete the cooking process. I'm just actually going to use a small spoon to just spread these potatoes out so they're in a nice thin layer. From there, I'm going to top them with half of the Parmesan cheese mixture and half of the shredded mozzarella. Okay, you just want a little bit on each layer for the mozzarella because you want to have a little bit more creaminess inside of the mixture. So just a small sprinkling is enough. We're going to save the rest of that Parmesan cheese and mozzarella cheese for the top. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the remaining potato mixture and I'm going to divide that between the two pans. Now, if you were doing this in one big pan, you would take half of the mixture, put it in the bottom of the dish, sprinkle it with the Parmesan cheese and the mozzarella, and then top it with the other remaining. But because I'm splitting these, we're doing a quarter into each of these pans at a time. All right, so I just want to make sure that I cover up any of that mozzarella from that first layer and just spread it out nice and evenly, just making sure that it's even and distributing all of the liquid between the two pans. After I divide the mix evenly, I'm going to put the remaining Parmesan cheese on top, distributing the rest between the two layers. And then I'm going to take a piece of aluminum foil and put it over the top of these two pans. I'm going to place it in a 350-degree preheated oven, and I'm going to bake it for about 25 minutes. You just want to make sure the potatoes are tender and the majority of the liquid has been absorbed into that potatoes. They're not very liquidy. After you check them, you're going to top them with the remaining mozzarella cheese. If you do not have enough cheese, you can maybe add a quarter of a cup more between the two pans or onto the single serving if you chose to plate it that way. And then we're going to stick it back into the oven for about 8 to 10 minutes until the mozzarella cheese is nice and brown and bubbly. At this point, you can raise your oven to about 425 degrees to get that browning to happen a little bit faster. If you decide to turn on your broiler, you can do that also, but I would just make sure that you constantly check the broiler that it is not burning the top because it does cook very fast that way. So after about 8 to 10 minutes, it comes out nice and bubbly, nice golden brown on the top, and it's ready to be served. This is a great dish to serve with steak, chicken, even some fish dishes. Hope you enjoyed this recipe. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to give it a like, subscribe to our channel, and hit that bell for notifications for when we post new videos.